Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for April 15th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a restful evening, afternoon, and ready for another wild and crazy day here in the market. Let's jump right in and take a look at what we had going on overnight. Asian markets last night were mostly, well, pretty much higher across the board. Australia was up slightly, the Nikkei up 0.84%. South Korea was up 0.88%. India had a really good day, up 2.19%. Hong Kong was up 0.23%. Shanghai up 0.15%. If we take a look at European markets this morning, they're also bullish. We have the DAX up 1.26% this morning. FTSE is looking higher by 1.02%, and then CAC is up 0.47%. Looking at the U.S. futures, however, U.S. futures, well, a little bit modest this morning. They were lower, mostly lower overnight, and they've been rallying up this morning as we moved into those earnings reports. But right now we have the Dow futures showing up 32 points in the Dow futures. We've got S&P 500 futures up 10 points, and we've got the NASDAQ futures up 54 points. So a little bit of bullishness, but a little bit more on that modest side. If we take a look at what's happening in oil, XLE and those producers, well, you can see popped up and dropped yesterday. We're getting a little bit of follow through to the downside this morning. Right now we've got oil futures down just slightly at 61.35 a barrel, down 17 cents. Brent crude is also lower at 64.69 a barrel, and we have natural gas, which was down yesterday, trying to push up ever so slightly this morning, only up by about 3 cents so far this morning. If we take a look at those cryptos here this morning, well, kind of a mix in those cryptos here today. We've got Bitcoin pushing to the upside right now, up $579 a coin. However, we have Ether, there we go. We have Ether moving lower this morning, down just $7.76 a coin. And there's some mix, a lot of uncertainty, it looks like, in those cryptos markets here this morning. Let's take a look at the precious metals sector here. We've got gold that moved down a little bit yesterday and then pushed back up. Well, showing a little bit more bullishness here this morning, up $12.80 an ounce this morning, $3,239 an ounce at the moment. And we've got silver futures also higher this morning. Let's see, they are up almost 15 cents at 32.31 an ounce, with copper higher. Looking here at COPX, that's continuing to try and push a little bit higher. Platinum is up, but palladium just slightly lower after a big zooming move yesterday. Palladium futures down just a tiny little bit. Looks like we're still getting some bullishness coming in here on the physical palladium ETF, so watch that carefully. Let's take a look at those bonds. Now, bonds going higher here this morning, a little push to the upside. We've got the 2-year bonds at 3.86%, the 10-year bonds at 4.38%, and the 30-year bonds at 4.42%. If we take a look at the US dollar here this morning, we've got that US dollar, well, just kind of floating in here. Right now, the dollar is slightly higher on the day by a nickel. We're still below resistance here in the chart, as you can see. And obviously we've been downtrending, so we'll have to keep a close eye on this. US dollar continues to remain quite weak here at the moment. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. I got to tell you, the volatility of this market makes for a dangerous time. I get contacted by a lot of traders out there finding a lot of difficulty in handling the volatility of this market. And remember, one of the things that you can do is stand aside. You do not have to trade, and particularly when you're doing swing trading or intraday trading, things like that, that volatility can be a little bit hard to deal with. And I'm seeing a lot of pain from folks and traders that are attempting, one of the things that happens, we get all this volatility and the excitement comes up, and then we try to trade faster. Be really careful here, guys. The volatility remains high. And as much as I would love to say that we have a clear path to the upside, I want to remind everyone it is not uncommon at all in a move like this where we sweep down so strongly that there is, and we rally back, that there is that possibility that we could move back down. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to go all the way back down, but just overall, we see these patterns in the market a lot where we do these double bottoms, these retests of lows, right through there. We get these pullbacks and we catch these double bottoms. We pull back and we pull that little higher low that comes in there. So it's a very, very common pattern in the market. And this volatility does suggest that there could be that possibility of more of a pullback. And I'll tell you why I'm thinking that here in just a moment. But watch that carefully. We want to be careful with this idea that we're just going to quickly zoom all the way back up. This has been quite a change in the market, and we have been comfortably used to the fact of pushing stocks higher and higher and higher, running those valuations in the market very high. But remember, the market always seems to find a way to correct, and whether it is by administrative policies or just trouble in the market itself, we eventually come into that correction. So since we've pushed down so far, we cannot rule out the possibility of a retest of lows. Now, going all the way back down there and retesting those lows would be awfully painful, but we don't have to go all the way back down there. Sometimes it's just a pullback to some support in the chart. We pull back into there and then we catch that bit of a bounce. And I think this is really going to be dependent on earnings and how we react to these earnings, and just that uncertainty looking forward in the light of tariffs, all these changes and things that are happening. A lot of volatility in here. Let's take a look at these index charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Well, first off, one of the things that I suggested to the folks in Right Way Options yesterday is it would be a really good thing if the market got really stale for a little bit. And what I mean by that is spill off some of this volatility, get more into a ranging consolidation pattern in here to build some kind of consensus of a support or a resistance level in the chart, rather than swinging back hundreds of points. Fortunately, yesterday was pretty strong. Gap up 500 points, run all the way back down into the negative. We bounced back and forth in that 500-point range quite a long time yesterday. So watch that carefully here if that were to continue. If we can get those bulls to push through here, breaking through this resistance up here is going to be pretty important to pop on up, and then we can start testing these new levels of resistance above. Just remember that we are still in a technical downtrend, and all of our moving averages are showing us that technical downtrend here in the chart. 50 coming down, getting close to crossing down through that 200-day. So just remember, this could be nothing more than a relief rally back to the upside. Now, if those bears have anything to say, I'm going to look right down here and say, well, and unfortunately, that's a big move to the downside in points. We could come down into there pretty easily. If that doesn't hold, you can start looking for these levels down through here. Good strong level right in here that we could bounce off of that area, but watch for that possibility of those pullbacks. Let's take a look at our SPY. Very much the same situation here in the SPY. We tried to push up here and break this resistance yesterday, but then ended up fading back. We filled the gap and come right back down in here to test the high of that white candle. If the bulls can find inspiration today, first thing we need to do is break out of the top of yesterday's candle and then see if we can stretch on up for this big reversal candle here. See if we can retest that resistance. Now you want to notice up here, if we do that, we're going to be stretching right up here into significant price resistance in the chart and that downtrend. So watch that carefully if that were to be the case. If the bears have anything to say, well, it's pretty easy to see. We can back this up, come right back down in here and test that area of support in the chart. Breaking down through there would probably raise some concern and puts in that possibility that we could pull all the way back into here in the SPY. Remember, our moving averages here are not a bullish set of moving averages. 50 crossing down through the 200, obviously still in a downtrend. A lot of weakness here, and we've been seeing dropping volume here last few days. That may be that good sign that we're settling down just a little bit, but you just want to keep an eye on that pretty closely. The volatility could be pretty substantial yet in this market. I need to push that up there. You can't see that. Adjust that around. Sorry about that. Let's take a look at our QQQ. Our QQQ, very much the same. We popped up there nicely yesterday. We weren't able to quite break all the way back up there to the high of that big reversal candle. You'll see why though, because we're still struggling with this downtrend, all that uncertainty. We've got that meta trial going on. Antitrust trial going on in the government. They say it could last a couple of months. It's a big deal. So watch that carefully as everyone is trying to figure out tech and what these next round of earnings might be. If you take a look at that price resistance area in the chart, we've got that double whammy of resistance up here that we're going to have to deal with. So we're really perfectly set up if those bulls can't push up into here to maybe push back, and we could start pushing back into yesterday's low and dropping through there. You can see there's support right in here, and we could move even lower here to test that area of support if those bears were to get going on tech in any way, shape, or form. So watch that close. Our moving averages, we got that 50 crossing down through the 200. Not exactly what you'd look for in a roaringly bullish situation here of the market. Our IWM, poor IWM, continues to be just kind of dumped on here. It's the rented mule. We just beat on it a lot, and doesn't seem to get a lot of attention, particularly when tech gets attention. So watch this carefully here as we try to push up. Yesterday on that gap up, well, didn't do very well. We gapped up here into that chart and then ended up filling that gap and a little bit more yesterday. So if those bears have anything to say here in IWM today, look for a retest of that area of support, and if that fails, I would suggest right down in here could be the possibility. If the bulls get going, we need to see that break of yesterday's high and then see if we can push ourselves up here above that reversal candle and start stretching into some of these next levels in the chart, remembering that we're still in a downtrend and technically speaking a very bearish situation here overall in IWM, with that 50 coming down sharply through the 200-day, and we're headed toward the 500-day to add some additional resistance there on the old Russell. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX pulled back nicely yesterday, a little bit of easing in the pressure, but you do want to keep in mind we're still above 30 handles in the VIX. If the bulls can continue this push, what we need to do is we need to break down through these highs right through here. Pop down through there, break this upside trend, push us on down into that area of the chart. So watch that carefully if those bulls can do that. If the bears have anything to say, though, you could see this would be a perfect place that we might begin that little bit of a pullback or a retracement here in the market, and those bears pick up a little bit of steam here for a short period of time. We'll want to watch that pretty closely. Our T2122, well, you can see we had a nice little push to the upside. In fact, earlier in the day, we were up here kind of testing this downtrend area and even trying to push out up into here for a period of time. But as the day wore on, coming into the close, we saw that fade coming back in here. We left this little hockey stick in the air, kind of that hooking pattern up here, and sometimes that means that we could see that bit of a fade back in the market. So watch for that possibility. If the bulls have anything to say, we've certainly got some upside room for them, but we want to recognize we have rallied a lot, and we have opened a very big opportunity for those bears to attack as well if they find any reason to do so. Our T2108, our T2108 in here had a nice little rally to the upside, pushing up in toward this next level of resistance. We've got about 16.5% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. Obviously, that's not hugely bullish. We want to kind of keep in mind we've got this downtrend, all these resistance levels in the chart. If the bulls can continue to push, well, we've got some work yet to do here in T2108, so kind of keep that in mind. If the bears do have anything to say, we've created a little support areas in here for a pullback. We may not have to come all the way back to these lows for a retest if that's going to happen. Our T2107, pretty much the same. Unfortunately, T2107 percentage of stocks above the 200-day, you can see just barely reached up there and got that reversal day high in here. 19.25% of the stocks above the 200-day moving average. Clearly, we have tons of room for improvement in here on this. You can see we could push back up into this area of the chart and then on up into here. Obviously, downtrend in here could be tested out here at some point in time. So watch that carefully in T2107 if those bulls can get going. If the bears were to come back in, maybe a retest of these lows, perhaps we could hold there. May not have to come all the way back down in T2107, but we'll want to watch that closely. And T2101, well, T2101, we saw that little bit of breadth in here yesterday, which was nice to see. We haven't in some time seen breadth come in on the buy wave here on the market. We did get a little bit of breadth, a little bit of hook. So what we want to see on a bullish day, if we're going to stay bullish today, we want to see that breadth follow through to the upside, showing that those bulls are really engaging, really pushing to the upside. If we happen to see that breadth fade back, well, that could be a little bit problematic. It may be telling us we may be running out of steam for this upside rally. Watch that carefully here in the market. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, we don't have a whole lot to worry about on the calendar today, but a few things to be paying attention to. We've got the Empire State Manufacturing number. Now, these numbers have not been good at all in manufacturing. Consensus is looking for a -10, which would be an improvement over that -20. So watch that carefully here in Empire State. It is a market-moving report, but I gotta say, for some time now, we have really ignored manufacturing. Just didn't matter. As long as tech was doing well, manufacturing didn't matter. Well, we may want to start paying attention to this a little bit more, but watch that carefully. It may not be as market moving as times when it probably should have been. Let's take a look. We've got import-export prices in here. Import-export prices. Import, they're looking at a 0.0. That is a decline from 0.4. And export prices coming in flat. And the expectations at 0.1 to 0.1 there from the last time. So watch that closely today. Could be some ramifications in here with all those tariffs to be paying attention to. We got a whole bunch of bond announcements in here. We've got some bond auctions, a 6-week, a 52-week, and a couple of Fed speakers in here well, Cook is way after the bell, so we've only got Barkin to worry about during the day. Looking into Wednesday, we're going to ramp up on those market moving reports with that retail sales number, industrial production, business inventories, housing market index, petroleum status, and then some Fed speak and bond auctions in here as well to be paying attention to on that 20-year bond auction. So watch those carefully going into Wednesday. Remember, we've got a short week here with Good Friday market being closed. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. The good news is if we can get some good earnings reports, that we have a few more earnings to go with today. First off, we're going to hear from ACI, a little, let's go to daily there. Albertsons here. Albertsons, you can see just kind of spinning around here this morning. Keep an eye on that. That's been in this kind of shallow upside trend, but still working in here. Keep an eye on Albertsons, one of those defensive sector areas that's been holding up pretty well. We've got BAC, Bank of America, reporting this morning, trying to move a little bit higher, breaking through that reversal candle day in here, pushing up, but we've got to remember here, we're just crossing back above that 500-day moving average. A lot of bearishness yet in these charts, so keep that in mind. The Citibank also pushing up, hasn't been able to get back through that reversal candle in here, still obviously in a downtrend and still struggling in here below that 200-day moving average. We've got a lot of resistance above to be watching. We heard from Johnson & Johnson here this morning, J&J. Nice little pop-up here in the pre-market on J&J, but it's already pulling back a little bit as we're smacking into some resistance here on the chart. You will want to keep in mind that we've still got this downtrending pattern in here that we've got to get through. Quite a little bit of overhead resistance that we're going to have to get through as well on J&J. We've got Eric here today, Ericsson reporting a nice gap up here this morning, breaking back through some resistance. You'll notice in here might be, whoops, that changed the tool on me. Give me just a second. We might be breaking through that downtrend here. So that's a nice little pop. Any rest or pullback in here that holds a higher low and holds above some support sets up that next opportunity to the upside. So keep an eye on that if that can hold. And then PNC Financial. Reporting here today. Not much action in here on that so far, and as you can see, still very bearish, struggling with its 500-day moving average, moving in a downtrend. So we'll have to watch some of these regional banks pretty closely here. This afternoon, let's run through these really quickly. We've got FULT on that notable list. We've got HWC. We've got international brokers that will be in there, or interactive brokers. JB Hunt will be reporting this afternoon, and United Airlines. So keep an eye on those for this afternoon. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube. Also click that bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, do me that favor. Click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. And I want to also, one of the things I've been really remiss in talking about is software that I use. All of the stocks that you see here in my videos come from a program called the Live Trading Alert Scanner. Here is their website. Just go to livetradingalerts.com. You'll notice in here that they've got free trial. There's a 14-day free trial for you to check it out. And it is a customizable scanner that runs automatically. Once you turn it on, it runs automatically. And my good friend Ed Carter, this is his baby, and I'm telling you that if you have something that you would like to find in the market, if you can describe it to him, he can find it. He's remarkable at that, and you might want to take a look at this software, and I'll show you that I had suggested that one of the things I'm a little bit concerned about is that possibility of pullback, and let me show you why I think that could be occurring. Yesterday afternoon, and this is one of my scanner screens in here. Yesterday afternoon, I was picking up, here's another one, where we're starting to see a lot of these defensive sector stocks coming into the scans here. Now, what that means to me is that possibility that we could see, we might be seeing those institutions pushing more over into these defensive sector stocks. And you can see these scans will run automatically. I've got a note here I need to look at here that comes in, but you can see things like Consolidated Edison here pushing up in the chart. We've got MCK McCormick showing some bullishness here. We've got Schmuckers showing some bullishness. We've got Altria that's been pushing back up toward resistance. Colgate Palmolive pushing back up. Silver Miner, PAAS, doing really well. You can see Kroger pushing up to the upside. We've got Colgate there again. How about Coca-Cola showing up in the chart, moving to the upside? And we've got a lot of these defensive sector stocks showing some bullishness, pushing back up, which gives me a little bit of a worry that we have that possibility here that we could see that pullback coming again. It might be just that little bit of indication here in the market that these defensive sector stocks moving up. Take a look. PepsiCo, Monster, I mentioned this one yesterday as a possible buy. Popped the alert here in the chart yesterday. Seeing some of those defensive sectors makes me wonder if we might be close or nearing a point where we get that little bit of a bearish pullback still in the market as we try to work out the bottom here. So watch that carefully. If we do happen to start pulling back, you might want to take a look at some of those defensive sector stocks. They're holding up quite well, and there's quite a few of them. Take a look. Hershey moving back up, trying to cross through resistance. A lot of these defensive sector stocks looking good. On the defensive sector retail side, Walmart, my goodness, what a move in that. Any rest or pullback, great opportunity there. So, and by the way, guys, I teach that class on the 3-8 trap, and the 3-8 trap is just my go-to. And here again, I've got a scan that runs automatically, and I was talking about Caesar's Palace yesterday. We crossed the downtrend here, broke above, now we're resting back. If we can hold in here, we could create that higher low and start that upside trend here. keep an eye on Caesars Entertainment. But the awesome thing is this just runs automatically. And as you can see, if there's something in a chart that I want to take a look at, I use TC2000 here, obviously, and this connects with several pieces of software. If something pops up in a scan that I want to take a look at, I just have to double click it. And you can see it'll jump me right to that chart, so I can move very quickly. I don't have to think about running a scan. The scans are already set, and they start to populate over and over and over, so I can grab those symbols really quickly and pass them on to members of Right Way Options. But highly recommend you take a look at that software. Again, it is Live Trading Alerts. Live Trading Alerts, just go there. They've got a free trial. You can download the software, you can use it, you can try it out. Excellent piece of software. And the other thing is that the learning curve on it is really pretty easy initially. If you just want to get started with some of the basics and what I do with the scanner, if you look right here, here's the interface. And if you look right here to get started really quickly, a lot of the scans that I just showed you are right here. They're preset. You just pick it. You pick what list that you want to scan, or you can set a customized, a user-defined list, whether you want it to be intraday, monthly, daily, you tell me, and you can scan it, and then you can customize this in about, I don't know, millions of ways that you could customize your scan to just dial it into exactly what you're looking for. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit here off and on, but kind of keep an eye on that and get over there to Live Trading Alerts and take a look at that software. Great piece of software, and just does a tremendous amount of work for me. I don't have to run the scans or think about what to run. It just running for me. Let's take a look at a few other stocks that might be of interest here this morning. First off, we had a little bit of bullishness that came into tech yesterday, but I got to tell you, still a little concern here. NVIDIA pushing up right up into its downtrend, right up into some price resistance, and we ended up with some bearishness there. If we continue to see a little bit of pushback in here, watch for that possible fade here in NVIDIA. That certainly seems to be a possibility the way this is acting. If this can get through that downtrend and actually hold up here, hold that higher low in here, then I'm going to change my tune on that if we see follow through buying. But as we approach all these resistance levels in the charts, we're going to have to stay pretty careful here on those potential shorts. Because I think there is that possibility of the pullback in the market. Keep an eye on some stocks like CPNG here. CPNG coming right up into its downtrend. We've got considerable price resistance here for the chart to be working on. Has that dark cloud cover starting to form here. If this were to fall on over, watch that. DKNG also setting up in a potential short. Snap yesterday setting up in a potential short. So if we continue to see that bearishness coming into the market, if we start to roll back down for a retest of the lows, I would keep an eye on some of these stocks for that potential short. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day in your trading. I want to thank you so much for being here and listening. I truly appreciate it. Y'all take care, be safe, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Take care, everyone.